Since the start of the Arab Spring, the dynamics of the political landscape in the Middle East and North Africa have undergone dramatic changes. Uprisings in many countries have led to a change in leadership, shifting the nature of what was already a fragile political and security balance in the region. Despite similar cultures, political systems, and security concerns, the only real points of concurrence amongst the member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, were on the need to maintain strong security ties with the United States and on the threat posed by Iran. This shift in dynamics has also added a strain on the relationship within the GCC, particularly as the nation's hotly dispute policy approaches to the conflict in Syria, the stability of Egypt, and the Iranian nuclear issue. Some of these rifts were made very public earlier this year as the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain all recalled their ambassadors to Qatar over the Qatari support for the Muslim Brotherhood. And while the GCC has reportedly smoothed over this feud, the fundamental differences are clearly too great to overcome and will certainly boil over in the near future. But the differences between the GCC member states regarding these issues haven't just strained relations within the Council. They have greatly impacted our bilateral relations with each country. The administration's indecision in Syria and its misguided approach to the Iran nuclear issue have driven a deep wedge between us and some of our traditional regional allies and could potentially permanently damage those relationships, which would then pose challenges to our national security interests. While some of these nations leave much to be desired in many aspects, ranging from their human rights records to their efforts in fighting local terrorist financing, and the United States must continue to press those countries in addressing those issues, the members of the GCC are for now still key U.S. allies to many national and mutual security threats. It would be in the best security interest for the United States as well as the GCC members to develop and advance an integrated defense capability so that we can counter any threats in the region, including an Iran that continues to advance its ballistic missile capabilities and still has the potential to create a nuclear weapon. But it's not just the idea of a nuclear-armed Iran that threatens us and our partners in the region, but it is also Iran's role as the largest state sponsor of terror that must be defended against. Iran actively seeks to wage proxy wars and attacks against the United States, against our ally, the Democratic Jewish State of Israel, and our U.S. national security interests in the region, as well as attacks against several Middle East countries themselves. That is why I believe that the GCC countries must refrain from reaching closer ties with Iran, hold the line against this terrorist regime, and abandon any ambition to form an economic alliance, to deepen economic alliances with Tehran. Just this week, it was announced that the Emir of Kuwait would be visiting Iran at the end of the month, and Saudi Arabia extended an invitation to the Iranian foreign minister to visit. None of us here need to be reminded of the foiled plot by the Iranians to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. right here in Washington, D.C., to understand the lengths to which Tehran will go to try to shift the balance of power in the region in its favor. If we abandon our partners in the Gulf by continuing to pursue a bad nuclear deal with Iran that will leave intact its entire nuclear infrastructure and allow it to continue to enrich uranium, we will not only lose what little trust we have with the GCC states, but we may open the door to an all-out arms race in the Middle East. After all, it was the United States who put pressure on all of these governments to support our efforts in sanctioning the Iranian regime, and now they perceive the administration's zeal to reach a deal with Tehran as the U.S. selling them out to the Iranians, which will force their hands to cut their own deal with the regime in Iran. This could up the scales in the region and cause irreparable harm to U.S. national security interests, and may even make the extremist problem worse if our partners lose faith faith in us and stop cooperating with us to counter this threat. The administration must do more to work with these partners to earn their trust back, and it must abandon its current nuclear policy with Iran or run the risk of turning the entire region against us.